Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Big Apple Hockey, which unfortunately right now is not live on Facebook because of technical issues that I still cannot explain. But whatever, guys. It has already been a big day. Hard to believe it's been so active right now for the NHL, Phil. It's just been ridiculous. I, of course, am your host, Marc Williams. And farewell to one of the greatest living baseball players of all time in Willie Mays. I know it's not exactly a baseball topic, but a guy who's always ready to give his opinion on Mr. John Fulkowski.
Yeah, it's not a hockey topic, but Say Hey Kid is this guy's an American icon for a multitude of reasons: civil rights, sports. You want to talk about an icon, an American icon. Willie Mays is right up there. You talk about Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle. Talk about Willie Mays, and people remember that catch and the great career he had. So rest in peace, Willie Mays. But there's also stuff to go over in hockey, so let's get to that.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff that's been going over in hockey. First off, never mind all the trades. There was a pretty good game that was on last night, Phil, and we're going to get to that in 1 second. Well, we're going to go already to the A block where, I mean, sure, there's plenty of Islander and Ranger news today, but let's get to that Stanley Cup Final from last night. And, of course, the A block is brought to you by Seat Geek. Use the promo code BigAppleHockey for $20 off your first order. And always, check us out where our articles are. And follow Philk on Twitter. Just throwing that one up. And also, I usually have all my playoff articles I'll throw on there. But Philk, Panthers took a 3-0 lead in the Stanley Cup Finals. They're up 3-2 right now after Edmonton just came alive in the last two games. That's basically the best way to say it. You look at Game 3, Edmonton did take a 1-0. It was tied 1-1. They went down 4-1. They came back, but they came back and it fell short. Then they blow out Florida 8-1 in Game 4. And that was a 2-1 game at one point. Hard to believe that. And then Edmonton last night, they reverse the Game 3 script. They have 2 3-goal leads. They had a 3-0 lead. Then it was 3-1, 4-2, the 4-1, then 4-2. And they were able to hold on in the final minute. Phil, we're going to get to him specifically with one question that's on everyone's lips. But Connor McDavid, 8 points in the last 2 games after 3 points in his first 3 games. And Sergei Bobrovsky, the last 2 games, .769 save percentage. That is no good. Mr. Fulkowski, I have to ask you this question. Who is in control of this series?
I don't know if I feel like there's necessarily a control factor on either side. I think everything is just – I think this is like the ebbs and flows of a series. And the ebbs and flows of a game, or each game within a series, I should say. I mean, I would love to see Edmonton win it. I mean, I know every Ranger fan wants to see Edmonton lose so they can have Connor McDavid come to the Rangers in 2 years or whatever, and whatever fantasy that is. I don't think that's going to happen either way. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if the Rangers would be able to pull that off, to tell you the truth. But I think that McDavid winning would cement him probably as a top 10 player of all time, like right now. Right now. That's how good he is. I mean, he's on a trajectory that we haven't seen outside of Gretzky and Lemieux. That includes Orr, that includes Howe, that includes Yzerman, includes Sakic. No one has done what McDavid has done outside of Gretzky and Lemieux to this point in their careers, 9 years in. So McDavid is 5 points away from tying the record for most points in a postseason by Wayne Gretzky with 47. He's 6 away from breaking it. He needs 48. If those 2 games happen, he has a legitimate chance at it. And if it doesn't happen regardless, he's already cemented himself as the Conn Smythe winner, in my opinion. There's only 3 players that have ever scored 40 or more points in a postseason. I've already named the other 2, so it's pretty obvious who they are. And McDavid is the 3rd. McDavid also set the assists record in a single postseason. He actually broke one of Gretzky's records. So we're seeing a historical postseason from Connor McDavid. And without him, where are the Edmonton Oilers? And no offense to Leon Draisaitl, who is still, in my opinion, one of the top, I would say, 5 best players in the world. But Leon Draisaitl has not had the impact on this series that Connor McDavid has, or this postseason in general. His regular season wasn't as great as it was in previous years. Yeah, McDavid, same thing, but McDavid still was putting up more close to McDavid numbers. Draisaitl was there, but his numbers could be better. But just wow from what we're seeing from Connor. And yeah, Bobrovsky having his little, I guess, sputtering moment right now is kind of odd. But I mean, if you look back at Sergei Bobrovsky's career, he's kind of been plagued with this type of inconsistency. And you can even go back as recently as last year and say, hey, you know what? He wasn't even the starting goaltender entering the playoffs.
Correct.
So I definitely think that this is not out of the ordinary for Sergei Bobrovsky, but he's got 2 games to get himself in check. And if he doesn't, he's going to take a lot of heat for Florida not winning that series, because he has not been good since Game 3 at all. So I know Gunto and Granny, you're saying Leon has to be hurt. Possible, very possible, but there is nobody that can do what Connor McDavid does on a nightly basis. And even McDavid, who looked like he was battling through something, has now found an extra gear. I don't know if he got healthy. I don't know what the thing is, but he found an extra gear, and he's Connor McDavid again. So Florida's plans at a parade, they may have to be put on hold.
Well, definitely put them on hold until you win the 4th game. That's the one thing I would say with that right away, Phil. For me, and I'm going to just flip this right now to put the question up, is McDavid the Conn Smythe Trophy winner even if they lose? But before we get to that, I would only give it to McDavid if it goes 7 and if he's still putting up numbers that are in there. I'm sorry. 3 points in the first 3 games, and the team was down 0-3, and he was getting shut down by Barkov, and Bobrovsky had something to do with that too. I kind of get a little bit of a feeling, whether it's fair or not. And again, by the way, Phil, you said it best. He's got 40 points. Only the 2 of the most dominant forwards, not even 2 of, the 2 most dominant forwards did that in a playoff series. Part of me also just can't help and go, yeah, but Game 4 was pretty meaningless, and that was a really big game. Last night, good game, got the goal in the empty net.
Wasn't meaningless.
Well,
none of these games are meaningless. Throw that term out the window.
All right, they're officially the must win. All right, so
want to talk about tack on. Okay, I get it, but what if he doesn't put up those tack on points and that game is close? You saw what happened last night.
That's even more important, yeah. And look, I've been hard on the Barkov train. I have to again double check some of the numbers from last night, because obviously he was on the ice finally for a McDavid goal. But I'm starting to lean towards McDavid being the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. And regardless, but it has to go 7. I think if it goes 6, it's going to be, those numbers are great, but you still lost in the Stanley Cup Final. And look at the totality of the work of everyone else.
I don't know.
I think it's also because there are very few players I look at and I go, this guy was the most important player, even in a losing effort. Everybody go ahead. Comment that I'm crazy.
Yeah, I think you're crazy. There have only been 3 other players beforehand to win it, if it does happen, I should say. Roger Crozier was the first, and he was a goalie for Detroit on a losing effort. And then Ron Hextall in 87, losing effort to Philadelphia against Edmonton. And then John Sebastian Jaguar in 2003. All 3 of them met goaltenders. If McDavid does it, he'd be the first forward ever to be the Conn Smythe winner on the losing team.
Phil, I know you know that's not true, because you've answered. Reggie the Rifle Leach.
Reggie Leach, yes. Yeah. 70.
I think it was 76 he did it. He scored 19 in the playoffs.
You're right. It was 76, because I think that was his 60-goal year, too. You're right. Yeah. No, you're right.
And the only reason why I say I know you know that, because when we used to do Marc's Weekly Trivia, you answered that. So
Yeah, no, I did.
Right. But I mean, but Phil, how about this? But let me go right to what you're saying. He'd be the first center ever to do it. And it's when you talk about what Jaguar was able to do in 2003, like you're talking about, I think he gave up, what was it, a total of 5 goals in the 5 games against Dallas in the Western Conference Finals, or even less than that. And one of them was a 5 overtime game where he only gave up 1. Like, I mean, in order to win the cup on a losing team, you got to do this Herculean effort. Now, but to back you up a little bit more on this, because I want to try to get off of the Barkov train for a second. I'm very big on Barkov winning the Conn Smythe. I haven't mentioned anything in the last 2 games because I said game 4 was nothing, and I kind of was unavailable last night to really talk about this on Twitter. But, I mean, right now it feels like McDavid's doing the get on my back, boys, and I'll take you all the way there.
Yes.
You just got to hope that everybody else can get right on there with them. And so far in game 5, I mean, it came out to a 3-0 lead, 4-1 midway through the second period. Those are huge goals. Bobrovsky not on his game right now. He's letting in goals from bad angles. This is much different from the Carolina Rangers thing that went 3-0 and then went to 3-2 and even was looking like it was going to go to game 7 at about 50 minutes into the game 6. Yeah. This could be something, but on the other hand, let me also throw this out there. How much pressure did the Panthers put on themselves to win the Stanley Cup at home last night?
I don't know if they necessarily did. You could talk about. I know that people were throwing around. Oh well, it looked like they just kind of mailed it in game 4 so they could win it at home. And you know what? Their effort was a lot better in game 5, obviously. But I don't think Florida put a ton of pressure on themselves. I think really the pressure right now is on one guy, on Bobrovsky. Because those numbers, you look at those numbers, he's going to be outed as a scapegoat if they lose. He's going to. And a lot of people are going to turn on him. And when you have a $10+ million contract as a goaltender, you're paid like the best goaltender in the league or the second best. You have to put up better numbers than that, what he's put up in games 4 and 5. And the goals that he's letting up are inexcusable. Inexcusable. Yeah. So I know that some of them are McDavid, and I know that McDavid's making plays to get some of those guys goals. Like the play he made to Perry last night was unbelievable. That goal is going to go up there as one of the greatest all-time playoff plays we've ever seen. Like when I think of the all-time playoff plays, I think of Lemieux absolutely murdering Chambers, and who was his partner on that week that he split
I got to look that up. When he split
Chambers
the game,
was absolutely victimized there, and Mario Lemieux then just he beat Casey like a redheaded stepchild. So I mean,
all right, to borrow the line from the Pittsburgh announcer, he beat him like a rented goalie.
Yeah, beat him like a rented goalie or a rented mule. Yeah, Mike Lang. Great all time.
Thank you, because it was slipping my mind when I started the sentence.
Mike Lang is one of the greatest of all time. His calls are just absolutely famous. But I do think that that goal is going to be up there. But Bobrovsky is going to be a guy that's going to take a lot of heat if they lose this series, because they had chances to close it down games 4 and 5, and he wasn't good in those games. So he needs to be a hell of a lot better in these next 2 games. It's not on the team. It's on him. I don't think that there's any pressure on Alexander Barkov, who, for me, would win the Conn Smythe if Florida. If Florida wins it and they give it to a Florida player, it's Barkov. It's nobody else. It's Barkov. There's no other answer for it. But I do think McDavid wins it either way at this point. I just think that what he's done is historical. So, no, I don't think there's a lot of pressure on Florida. I think there's pressure on the Florida goaltender.
It's and I'm just going to the game center because I wanted to see about while you were talking.
I kind of think that this is pretty accurate. I think Perry could have been hammered on that play. He could have been absolutely sloshed, and probably he could have walked out from a shot session with Mark Williams at Boston Brokers and still scored that goal.
But
on a platter.
But Phil, the great part about it is that you look at what McDavid is doing right now, And this, I think, is what separates that, because we've had these conversations before. They're down 0-3. Oh no, are they going to come back? Hey, they might come back, and there might be like this happening or this happening, and every time, yeah, exactly. And you're going through all the different variables. This is a different variable from all the other situations, because you're talking about the best player in the game acting like he's the best player in the game and changing around the team sport. We look at those numbers I still left up there for Bobrovsky. If those numbers were on Stuart Skinner, we're not talking about this. Skinner's been okay. He hasn't been great. But
he was good enough last night, but sometimes that's all it takes. Like Marc, I mean, I know you remember this guy, and I know there are a lot of baseball fans that'll probably remember him, but Jack Morris. Jack Morris wasn't the greatest strikeout pitcher but he was a guy that pitched good enough to win the game and win big games.
Yeah. And hands down, Phil. And by the way, going with Jack Morris real quick. But he was the guy, you had him in the money spot. And I'll never forget 1991 World Series, where it was Jack Morris versus some young upstart named John Smoltz. And it went 10 innings of a 1-0 game. The reason why I'm going to bring up John Smoltz's name is because, we're going to talk about trades later, and everybody always wants to remember. They would love to have a Doyle Alexander for John Smoltz trade at all times, but we'll see about that one soon enough. Phil, so I'm going to put you on the spot right now. I will answer. Anthony should be coming on in a few minutes himself. Is this series going 7? And who's winning game 7 if that is the case?
I have such a hard time seeing Florida lose 3 games in a row. I really do. I don't want to go and say it, but I really have a feeling that Florida rebounds. Bobrovsky is too good to put up 3 stinkers in a row, but I do believe that Connor McDavid may have just found that extra gear, and I don't know if Florida really has an answer to stop him. Because once he gets into that type of gear, it's like a switch that goes off in his head. And the truly great ones can do that. Like, we're talking about the legends. We're talking about your Gretzky's, your Lemieux, your Howes, your Beliveaus, your Richards, your Orrs, so on. They can just take over a game like that at a will when they get pissed. And I think that's what's happened in Edmonton. I think McDavid he drew the line in the sand and said, "This is my last stand. Nobody crosses over my dead body. Unless it's over my dead body." So I think that's what Connor McDavid has done. I want to say that this series is probably going 7. I don't know if Edmonton's going to win it, but I do think that Edmonton finds a way to win in 6, and then 7's up in the air, and I don't know where to go from there.
Phil, it is so hard for me to look at this in a lot of different lights. Let me first start with this. 2 of the greatest players, I think, that never won a Stanley Cup are Henrik Lundqvist and Jarome Iginla. Iginla's chance was 2004, and he really played well in that playoff run. He was great with Calgary, and some people in Calgary will still say Martin Gellina won in the Stanley Cup on instant replay, but it didn't happen. And he fought hard in game 7, but Tampa was able to win that. Henrik Lundqvist in 2014, outside of game 2, we'll say, played his absolute balls out and tried to will the New York Rangers to a Stanley Cup. The Rangers couldn't break through the LA Kings. Look, we could debate about a lot of different things. The Florida Panthers looked like they were going for a gentleman's sweep, a 5-game win, if you will. And what happens? McDavid just says, "No, we're not done." And you know what? Chris T is right about this one. Leon Draisaitl hasn't done anything yet. That's scary to think about like that.
Yeah, if he gets going, that he's an X factor right now. If he gets going, then that's a big, big problem for Florida. I do agree with the people that have said that he's hurt. I think he may be hurt.
Well, hurt or not, you have to figure out a way to do this. So you got to get through it. And look, the way that Connor McDavid's playing right now, Alexander Barkov is not going to be on him as much as he was last night. And look, that's what happens when you get the home matchups. So I actually think Knobloch's going to get favorable matchups in this.
Yeah.
To answer exactly the way you did, it all falls on Bobrovsky. He can't be mediocre. 763 in the last 2 games.
Not good enough.
Not good enough.
Nope.
And you know what? You're going to have at least a 920 save percentage game. You can't do this. You can't put your team behind 2-0, 3-0. You're not going to win, especially right now. And look, I've talked about rookie head coaches versus veterans. This is literally the biggest difference between head coaches, probably in NHL history. And Chris Knobloch, who we all thought was going to be a good coach, and Paul Maurice, who's probably going to the Hall of Fame. And if Knobloch and McDavid, or even more accurately, if McDavid steals the Stanley Cup away from Paul Maurice, yikes! That's going to be quite an amazing thing, Phil. I'm going to say I predicted Florida in 6, winning it in Game 6 at the beginning of this series. I'm going to have to stick with that. I do think Florida closes it out either way. If I'm correct, Phil, is what was the last team to come back from a 3-0 deficit in the finals? And
jeez, wow. I don't think that's happened in a very long time.
And I'm just checking one because one of them's coming to mind.
Happened in the Cap era at all.
Definitely didn't.
Wasn't in Tampa and Calgary.
Yeah. It might be all the way back to when the Maple Leafs did it in 42. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. I thought maybe it could have been Flyers Edmonton, but that series was 2-1.
No. That wasn't it.
That was not the case. So, all right, Phil. So we're gonna go away from that. Let's go to some of the news for today. We're gonna go with 2 of the headlines, and then we're gonna do some bar talk conversation. Anthony's gonna be coming on for mock trades in a moment. So, Phil, let's get to the big one today that Ranger fans are talking about. Barclay Goodrow claimed by the San Jose Sharks. He is off the New York Rangers salary cap. It was 3.5 million.
3.6.
3.6 that they're saving on him. Barclay Goodrow had a great playoff run for the New York Rangers this year, but I mean, that cap number and that contract was a big problem. Phil, what are your feelings about this? Because obviously, if we were doing bar talk, this is a layup that you'd be happy about.
Yeah. I think everybody in the comments that usually gets on you for layups was already all over that the minute the stream started. But this is something I wonder about because Molly Walker hinted to that. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I would wonder what that is. If it's small, I don't know. Welcome on, Anthony.
How's it going, gentlemen?
So
how we doing, Ant?
Not bad.
So you got us right in time for the news on the day. We recapped the finals already, but we're talking about basically the Barclay Goodrow news and that he was brought out or he was waived and claimed by San Jose. You got people wondering if there is more to this because Molly Walker did mention something about a prearranged deal. Personally, I think that it's the best move for the team. Maybe not for the player because the player obviously probably didn't want to leave. But I think the Sharks, I'm going to go with Evan's response here. I think the Sharks have to reach cap floor. I think that's part of it. You bring on some leadership. We saw this. We've seen this over many times over the years. I remember in Pittsburgh in 2005, 2006, they came back from that lockout and they signed a bunch of veterans and they weren't expected to really compete because the veterans that they signed were kind of past prime. Lemieux was on fumes and he ended up retiring 2-3 months into the season.
Yeah.
And then John LeClaire was there. He ended up getting hurt and then didn't play after that season. Zygmunt Palffy was about a point per game that season, ended up hurting his shoulder again. and then ended up going back to Slovakia, I think. Marc Recchi was added to that roster. There were other veterans that were added to that team. Teams do this all the time, so it's not like out of the ordinary. But I mean, even Chicago last year, Foligno, Perry. I mean, everybody praised those moves because it was, one, going to get them to the cap floor, and two, they needed veteran leadership and protection for Bedard. So I will say this. I think this was the best move for the team. They avoid a buyout. They avoid a trade with retention, which is big. But for me, my question is, does this open up a move for Trouba? Because now they don't have dead cap on their books. So if they want to buy out Trouba, they can buy him out and only have to worry about dead cap for 4 seasons, save 50% these next 2, and then have $2 million of dead cap, additional dead cap on the books for the following 2 seasons, or maybe even a trade in which they retain 50% for the next 2 years.
Anthony, what are the signs on this one? Because I do think it feels like, yes, Jay is right about this. It feels like something else is coming, but I do think it has to do with Jacob Trouba.
I don't think it has anything to do with Jacob Trouba. I mean, the Rangers could still try to move Trouba for sure, but waiving Gaudreau and having him claimed, I don't think has anything to do with what the Rangers' decision is with Jacob Trouba. I mean, I will say it's a peculiar move for San Jose. I mean, granted, I know they have a ton of cap space. You know, they need to reach the floor. But why they willingly took on the contract of a guy in Gaudreau who makes $3.6 million for the next 3 years without any, with any compensation is a little strange. But then again, for them and Mike Greer, it made sense. So we won't exactly know what the reasoning is per se, but good on the Sharks, I guess. They feel like they got a veteran who can help their younger players. And, don't forget that Gaudreau is a former Shark. So he's going back to a familiar place. So I don't think he's probably, all that upset. At least he's going to somewhere where he has familiarity with. But, I think ultimately the biggest factor is, above anything else, is that the Rangers now have more cap space to work with. They still have to re-sign Ryan Lindgren. If they do, that will chip away at it a little bit. But Chris Drury certainly has the space to go after a Jake Gensel in free agency, or try to make a trade for somebody. So that this move allows him some cap flexibility. But I would have said before, the offseason really started, and technically the offseason hasn't even started yet. The Stanley Cup Finals is still going on. And it felt like today was the draft weekend with how much stuff happened. But I think Drury's armed with some cap space now going to the offseason, and he has some flexibility. So, again, good on the Sharks for, I guess, finding a player that plays with grit, and every team needs a player like that. But nonetheless, the Rangers got some early work done here.
Again, I just want to share this thought before we close out Gaudreau and move on from this. But a lot of Ranger fans have been going on, Drury. This is what he did wrong. This is what he did wrong. Drury was handcuffed with some of the contracts that he got handed by Jeff Gorton, which was the Panarin deal. And if you take away the playoffs, he's earned basically a lot of that money. He still has to earn that money in the playoffs too. Don't get me wrong. But the Trouba deal was just the worst. So you got to figure out some way to either get that off the books right now or what. But the Gaudreau deal was one of Drury's, and we all kind of looked at it right away and went, "That's too long a term." As a matter of fact, as Phil said right there, it's a good deal, good player, but term will kill you. It's kind of
no, I didn't say that. What I said was that they had to win the deal on one of the 3 areas, and they lost on all 3. They lost on the AAV, they lost on the term, and then they lost on trade protection. But they didn't overly lose on trade protection because they only gave them a half-team no-trade list as opposed to a full no-trade. So that was good, at least.
Yeah. So, I mean, so that's where this roster construction, you got to figure out how to maneuver this money a little bit better. To a feel-good story, right before we go to our B block, guys. But Kyle McLean signing with the New York Islanders. Great story. That because he played well this year. Anthony, some people would kind of be like, well, his dad's the assistant coach. No, he earned this contract, you would say.
Yeah, I mean, once he got recalled, his play kept him up on the big squad for the rest of the season. I mean, he's a guy that skates well. He's physical. He's high energy. And you saw with a few of his goals. Actually, his first NHL goal, it was the breakaway when he came out of the box against Toronto. I mean, he put on hell of a move against, I think it was Samsonov in net at the time, but so he showed he's got a teeny bit of skill too. So I think this is a guy that, he's 25 years old. I think he could be a real solid bottom six, fourth line center for the Islanders. He's a little bigger in Casey Zizekas, but they play a similar style, that kind of like up tempo. He's a pest to play against. So, I think he absolutely earned this deal. And, typical Lou Lamoriello, though, he hasn't released the terms. There's no AAV, so we'll be guessing here for probably the next 2 years before we figure out how much he's making. But if I had to guess, by the way, I'd probably say it's 900 to $1 million. I would say, but yeah, we'll see when that number comes out. But no, good deal for the Islanders. Like I said, he established himself as a bottom six center, and I think this kind of really solidifies him as an NHL player going forward, barring him, totally blowing training camp. But, I like the deal. There's really nothing to complain about.
Yeah. Phil, what do you think about McLean staying?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's worked his ass off to get there. I don't think it's a nepotism hire by any means. From what listen, I'm not going to tell you that I've watched a ton of him or nearly as much as Anthony has. But I mean, in the games that I've seen him in, he's got a motor. Anthony's right; he's got a motor. He's a decent skater. He's a pain in the ass to play against. I mean, you want guys like that on your team, especially in playoff time, because those are the types of guys that you need to sometimes get those Nato-like goals, those unexpected goals from those unsung heroes. And McLean wasn't bad for them in the playoffs; he really wasn't. But I do wonder if he's going to continue to. Oh, he's not going to continue to shoot at 15%. I can tell you that. So the numbers will probably go down a little bit. But if he's a 20-point player, I mean, that's what you ask for of a fourth liner, and that'll be a good deal for them if he's a 20-point player at $900K to maybe even $1.25 million. I don't know what the deal. Obviously, we're not going to know what the deal is like because of the fact that Lou just doesn't disclose these things, and we're losing cap friendly come July. But yeah, I do think that he's found a home, and it's another Hudson Fashioning like story where guy kind of toils in the AHL, gets his chance, makes the most of it, and latches on because he's a hard worker.
Well, 32 games, 9 points this season, 4 goals, 5
That's
assists.
a lot in 32 games for a guy playing 10 minutes a game. I will tell you that.
Yeah, not much. And on top of it, he scored the first goal for the Islanders in the playoffs. So a lot of people are forgetting that one. I think this is a good find for him. And if he can channel any of that energy that his dad brought to the NHL, this could be a great signing for the New York Islanders and a great one. Anthony, before I start the DraftKings message, I have to come back to a question I asked a minute ago with me and Phil. Is the Stanley Cup Finals going 7?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going 7. I mean, I think the Panthers are going to have a hard time going into Edmonton and winning a game 6 in that building. It's gonna be electric. It's gonna be high energy, and the Oilers have the momentum right now. McDavid's playing like a man on a mission. Bobrovsky's game has maybe dropped a level or two. So yeah, it has all the makings of going 7. And if it does go 7, I think at that point the Panthers have to be pretty worried because now it's just winner take all. So I'm gonna say it goes 7. I'd be surprised if the Panthers close it out in 6.
Follow it up, Anthony. Who wins?
The series?
Mm-hmm.
So, despite just saying the Panthers will be in trouble if it goes game 7, I will lean a little bit towards them just because it is going to be a Game 7 in their building. And at some point, too, you would think the pendulum's going to swing back the other way. So the Panthers won 3 in a row. If it goes 7, the Oilers won 3 in a row. At some point, you figure, okay, well, the Florida Panthers are too good of a team to lose 4 games in a row. They're bound to get one, right? So that's why I'll just say Panthers if it goes 7, but it really is a toss-up at that point.
And I guess, you know what? Let me get your input on this one. Connor McDavid, is he the Conn Smythe Trophy winner even if the Panthers win the Cup?
That's good. I mean, honestly, it's a really good question because I think Bobrovsky's probably out of it now based on how the last couple of games have gone. And that really leaves Barkov. I mean, maybe a very slim chance for Gustav Forsling, but so if you're debating between Barkov, McDavid, I guess it really all depends. I guess it really depends what happens in Game 6 and 7, right? I mean,
yeah,
if the Oilers win Game 6 and let's say they win, 1-0, McDavid doesn't factor into it, and then let's say Game 7, the Panthers blow the Oilers out, and Barkov has 2 goals and an assist, let's say, then I would say Barkov. So I think it's still going to be based on the circumstances here. But again, even that, I think it's a toss-up, to be honest with you. I do.
All right.
What would you do if I'll throw an old school at Anthony right here. What would you do if Connor McDavid went off and ended up breaking the 50-point mark in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean he's got 42 points, and honestly, I know it sounds crazy to say 8 points is unrealistic, but if anyone can do it, it would be him. But no, that would be absurd. You can never really count out McDavid. Anything he does doesn't really surprise me at this point.
Remember what I said at the beginning of this series? What is all right, great. Thanks, Sports Maniac.
Was that just said on Twitter and I missed it, or that's? I'm curious. Oh yeah, it is. Cap Friendly. Cap Friendly just tweeted out.
Ooh. Able to get terms from Lou.
Is Lou like trolling? And he put it on there because he's like, oh, they're going away in 2 weeks. It might as well.
Honestly, I mean, I thought because it was 3 years, he would have got slightly higher. That's why I said 900 to $1 million. I mean, league minimum for 3 years. I mean, McLean.
Isn't league minimum 750?
I don't know. It might have gone up.
League minimum is 750. We'd have to ask Steven about that one, but I thought league minimum was 750.
Yeah, which hopefully we'll be able to hear more from Steven as early as this weekend. By the way, everybody, look for our draft coverage. We're going to have a lot of draft coverage.
It is 775 confirmed.
It is 775. Okay.
Yep.
All right, we're going to have a lot of draft coverage coming next week, especially with 2 of us that are going to be going to the draft as well and covering it there. So can't wait to get all this coverage out to you guys. But let's take a quick message from DraftKings, and then let me just hide that. Oh, it was hidden already. Quick message from DraftKings, and then guys, we got some mock trades. You tell us who would say no to them.
Mark, did you?
Hockey. Did I what? Did I what?
I know you're going to bar talk already. Did you talk about the other moves like Markstrom and Dubois? Did you do any of that yet?
That's going to be in bar talk. We're going to do B block next. All right. Okay. All right. There we go, guys. Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN.
It's a no for me, dog.
No.
No. no.
No.
And welcome back, everybody, to a segment. We actually love to do this segment. We haven't done this in a while, but it's Big Apple Hockey's Who Says No, where we're going to make up a lot of these mock trades, and you're going to tell us who is going to say no on these trades. And let's go with the biggest name that everybody is talking about right now. Mitch Marner, who's on the block, Mr. John Volkowski, and a lot of people have been talking about him possibly getting moved. He's got the hammer. He's got the no move clause. But how about this one? The Vegas Golden Knights acquire Mitch Marner, and what goes to Toronto? Shea Theodore, Nicholas Roy, and is it? Oh, by the way, it is Roy, not Wah, right?
What's that?
And a first round pick. I just want to make sure it was Roy, not Wah, right? Nicholas Wah?
No, I think it's Wah.
It's Wah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I, corrected myself. So, Theodore, Wah, and a first-round pick this season. Bilk, who says no?
Shea Theodore is a big name. I don't know if, even with the acquisition of Noah Hannafin, I don't know if they want to create that type of hole on defense. Marner is overkill for them, to be honest. I really think they would probably want to get their house in order and probably re-sign Jonathan Marchessault as opposed to doing this, or go after Jake Gensel. Because supposedly at some point they were in on Gensel. So I'm going to say Vegas likely says no to this. I think Toronto might actually also say no because I think they would maybe want less salary coming back in return to make other moves. So I just don't see, and I also don't see Shea Theodore being the answer to Toronto's problems. They need a big physical two-way defenseman that's mobile. They would need Pietrangelo more, even though I know that doesn't make any sense for the trajectory and the age and everything. But I don't really see either team, but I think Vegas would have a bigger no towards this than Toronto, excuse me.
All right. Anthony, what do you think?
Well, first off, I want to say it's wild that, I shouldn't say that because Vegas just happens to be on every big name player, and they somehow get it done. That's why I was a little surprised when there was a report from Elliot Friedman saying that he thinks that, Vegas will be involved with Mitch Marner. If they do it, they somehow have to move out a big ticket player. And a lot of their guys like, Stone and Hurdle, Carlson, I don't see them moving any of those guys. Peter Angelic feels like because of his age. So, really, Theodore's the one kind of higher salary player that I guess would make the most sense that Toronto would have interest in. So I think that's why he's in this deal. But, ultimately, I don't know. Vegas just loves acquiring the best player available. So I don't think they would say no. I think they would see star power. Their owner, Bill Foley, would be all about it. I think Toronto would say no because I think they might want a little bit more than what Vegas can offer.
I'm going to go with Toronto says no. I'm going to agree with Phil on this one. I think Vegas, well, first up, I'm going to agree with both of you. I think the best move for Vegas would be re-signing Marchessault. If not that, then it would be probably going after Gensel. But Anthony, you're also kind of right about this one. Vegas is like a child with ADD, and the shiny new toy is what they always want. And the next toy out there, if Mitch Marner is an available player, they're going to want Mitch Marner first. And they're going to see if they could play around with him first. And Mitch Marner would go there because everybody wants to go to Vegas.
Oh, yeah, he would wait for Vegas, yeah.
He would definitely wait for Vegas. I don't know if that's enough for Toronto, though. I think Toronto, Mitch Marner is what I like to call a yes and type of player. Because in improv, it's always you always have to do yes and to keep it going. But Mitch Marner is you're going to give me more than that, right? Taylor is great. Waz good. The first round draft pick is going to be late. I'd want to see a more substantial player or one more player thrown in there for if I'm the Maple Leafs.
Shea Theodore is a pretty substantial player, though. That's the reason why I think Vegas would ultimately say no because they're giving up that much on top of Shea Theodore to go get Mitch Marner, who's being currently outed as a scapegoat for Toronto's playoff failures. I listen. I'm not saying that anything could devalue him that badly, but he also has 1 year left on his deal. That doesn't make sense for Vegas.
Yeah, and that's one reason why I'm kind of thinking it's.
Unless it comes with an extension.
All right. And usually actually, you know what? Let me move one around, then I'll get to that. Guys, let's look over to the Northeast, where in the Atlantic Division, we got two players that are going to be switching places. To Ottawa, we got Linus Ullmark, and to Boston, Josh Norris. Mr. LaRocco, who is going to say no to this one?
Well, Linus Ullmark already supposedly nixed the deal to LA last year at the deadline, right? So who knows if he would waive for Ottawa, but let's just say he would waive. In that case, Boston needs a number one center. We all know that, but Josh Norris has a lot of shoulder issues, and his contract is, he's got a large contract, I think 6 more years left, got close to $8 million. So as good as he is when healthy, I think if the Bruins trade Ullmark, they would probably want more of a sure thing at center ice. So I will say Boston says no. However, I think you're on the right track here with, Boston acquiring, potentially moving, a luxury because they don't need Ullmark with Swayman to acquire a center. So it's in the ballpark. I just think Josh Norris and his shoulder issues might be worrisome to Boston. I will say Ottawa does it though. I'll say that.
Phil?
I think Boston says no to this, but I think if you change that to Shane Pinto and added a pick or a prospect, I think that deal would go through.
I'm going to go with that. Ottawa says no to this because they're giving up the player with more term in Norris. I mean, Norris is locked down to the end of the 29-30 season. I know he's got a lot of shoulder issues, but you got to hope. But he's signed for $7.9 million.
That's the problem.
Huge. Yeah. That could be a huge problem. I'm inclined to say Ottawa first. Both of them might say no to this then, because if you got to worry about.
Why would you say Ottawa would say no? They're getting rid of a guy who could potentially be injury prone to get a number one goalie. Why would
getting
Ottawa
a number one goalie for one season? He's a UFA right after that. So if he is,
you got to factor that in too, because do you really see Linus Ullmark re-signing in Ottawa if he gets dealt there?
Or better yet, putting up great numbers in Ottawa and getting another contract. Linus Ullmark right now, he's only.
I don't think he approved to Ottawa the first off, but I mean,
he's 31 years old. He'll be 31 on July 31st. So that's 31 on the 31st. How about that? But he's going to need a good year, and he could probably get one more really solid contract out. And I think that's going to be a factor too with wherever he goes. He's going to want a place where he can land and do well. Well, speaking about a good player, who's been around the block a lot. Well, not a lot. I always think about him because I always get him in fantasy every single year, guys. But Nikolai Ehlers to the New York Rangers for the rights to Ryan Lindgren and a third-round pick. Phil, who do you think says no to this one?
I mean, I know people are going to turn around and be like, oh, well, the Rangers would absolutely jump all over this. Is Nikolai Ehlers really the answer? You're going to bring another guy that plays East-West hockey, that doesn't score a ton of goals, doesn't really play defense, doesn't play the heavy type of hockey that they need? I mean, if you're going to go do that, why not just go sign Patrick Kane at that point? You can probably get Patrick Kane on an incentive-laden deal because word is that he feels like he has unfinished business in New York. So I don't think either team does this, to tell you the truth, because I think Ryan Lindgren, while he's a good defenseman, I don't think it's enough for Ehlers. I think the pick may have to be higher, or there may have to be a prospect, like a significant prospect attached, because it's RFA rights. But Ehlers, to me, just doesn't make sense for the Rangers. Just doesn't. I'm sorry. I think both teams probably end up saying no to this.
Anthony, who do you think?
I think. I mean, Ehlers could play both sides of the wing. I think that could be attractive to the Rangers. We all know they need a better option on the right wing. He has a lot of speed. He can score, but yeah, I think the Rangers doesn't fit their style of play. I think they need to get away from that type of player. And on Winnipeg's end, Ryan Lindgren I think is too banged up for their liking.
Yeah,
I think
I
they would
agree.
want somebody a little more reliable. So yeah, I would say both teams might say no to this, and that's not a knock. And I think both Ehlers and Ryan Lindgren are good hockey players that could be useful to other teams. I just don't know if they're good trade partners.
Yeah, 25 goals last year, 61 points. Ehlers is kind of, you could argue that was probably the best season of his career last year with a plus 27. I mean, yeah, he's got 2 other seasons where he had 60
Yeah, this is
points.
also a good point from Boxing Fan. He's not good, and his playoff numbers are not good. They need something that could get them over the hump. And I mean, if you're going to go an East-West softer player that doesn't play, tenacious forechecking heavy hockey, then I mean, you're better off not giving up assets for Kane and signing Kane to a veteran incentive laden deal, which I think he may end up being open for with the Rangers. I'm not saying I want him or that it's going to happen, but from the rumblings that are being reported, it sounds like it may be something that the Rangers may at least kick the tires on this offseason.
Well, we'll get back to that later in the Q&A and the comments talk. But it's also, I think the lesson that the Rangers learned was you need to get bigger and more physical in the playoffs.
Yes.
That's not Nikolai Ehlers, but they also need a playmaker for that first line if they don't change anybody around, which we could debate that they should be asking a star player about moving, but that's a different story. Guys, let's do 2 more. We're going to go to 2 teams with a lot of history, but their GMs are gone, so they might actually look to make a trade. The Montreal Canadiens would get Marty Necas, and Carolina would get Caden Gooley, Alex Newhook, and a first-round pick next year, not this season. Mr. Filkowski, I see to you. Oh, sorry. This is Anthony's. Go to you.
Okay.
Marty Necas, by all counts, from a lot of the insiders, the Hurricanes have like 12 plus teams that are interested in acquiring him. So I think you could get a little bit of a bidding war for Necas here. From Montreal's point of view, it's not. I think there's a certain other defenseman they'd rather not trade than Gooley. You guys know who I'm talking about. One of the most recent first round picks.
Newhook.
Yep. Newhook is a guy that, Colorado already traded, so he's on his second team. Hasn't really met expectations yet. And it's not even a 2024 first round pick. So I'm actually going to say that the Hurricanes say no to this. I think just with the sheer amount of teams that are involved, I think they could end up getting more. Certainly not a package to sneeze at. I just think the Hurricanes might get a little bit more from another team. So Carolina says no.
Phil, who do you think is saying no on this one?
I don't think either team does this because I do agree with Anthony on what he said about them being able to kind of muster up a bidding war for him with the supposed amount of teams that are involved. But I don't think Montreal wants anything to do with dealing Caden Gooley. He looked good in his limited time, so I don't think that I don't think that's happening, and I just don't see either team looking to do this. And I definitely, if you change that to Reinbacher, I think that would be an absolute hell no from Montreal. I think that would have just been Gorton hanging up the phone there. So I don't see what gets a deal done between these two teams if it requires Reinbacher.
Well, the animosity between Don Waddell and Marc Bergevin are gone, so you don't have to worry about that.
Not necessarily. There's 2 owners.
That's true too. I guess the owners could have a factor in that. We're always throwing Caden Gooley in these, so hopefully he finds a place to go to call home. I am gonna go with that. It would be they'd be like, I don't think either team accepts this one because I think Carolina, well, maybe Montreal, but I think Carolina's going to say no then. All right.
I don't think Natchez is what they need. I think the direction that they want to go in is they seem to want to go with bigger, more physical players. I mean, look at their last selections. Reinbacher's massive in size. Slavkovsky is a big player. I mean, Natchez is not small by any means, but he does not play big and heavy. So I don't think we're going to go in that direction.
Well, let's go to the last one, where the San Jose Sharks acquired J.G. Pageau and a second-round pick, and the New York Islanders get a fifth-round pick. This is all in this year's draft. Salary dump right there. I'll start this one off, and I'll turn it over to you, Phil, and let Anthony finish up since it is the Islanders beat. But I'm going to go with the fact that I think this one might go through. I think San Jose, are they really having problems getting to the cap floor? Are they? I don't exactly see where the problem is. But is Logan Couture going to be coming off LTIR? Is that an issue? Is there potentially health issues there? But if that's the case, then they need contracts. Might as well get Pageau. So that's where I'm thinking on that one. Phil, what do you think?
I mean, it's an interesting premise, and it makes sense in that regard. They are $32 million below the cap. The floor is not sure what the floor is this upcoming year off the top of my head, but it looks like they have about, after that waiver claim, it's $55.27 million. And that's not including if Logan Couture comes off. I mean, he was on IR. He wasn't on LTIR. And you have Vitek Vanacek that was also on IR. That's $3.4 million. Matt Benning was on IR, $1.25 million. So I am not sure of, and they got a bunch of restricted free agents to sign between Delandria, Cunnin, Jack Studnicka, Philip Zadina, who I don't know if they're going to do anything with that. But their other UFAs are probably not big contract guys like Justin Bailey or Alex Barabanov, who may be gone. Ryan Carpenter, who I'd be shocked if he gets $1 million. Mike Hoffman is probably going to end up elsewhere. And then Kevin Labanc, who probably played himself out of what would have been a bigger deal had he continued on the trajectory that he was a few years back. So I think this deal is possible. I have questions as to whether or not it actually happens. I wonder if San Jose would rather just go and sign a player like that in free agency. But I'm not going to say that this is out of the realm of possibility. It's definitely within the realm of possibility. I just don't know. I think it could go through if it came to it. I think this is kind of the deal you're looking at. I don't think Pageau is in you definitely need to move a first round pick territory yet. His body may end up deteriorating to the point where you may end up if you don't move him quick enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that it's something that I think both teams could at least kick the tires on and possibly have some serious discussions. I mean, only 33 points last year for Pageau, 40 and 70 the year before, and then 39 and 77. I mean, the 10 points make a difference when looking at the contract, especially for a third line player. Like if you're gonna pay a third liner, $5 million a year, you want them to be at least a 40-point player. So he only has, I believe,
2 years left.
2 years, yeah, it's 2 years. It's after 26 that he's done. So it's not a terrible deal to take on. If I had to look at like past trades, like the Marc Stahl trade, for example, Detroit ended up taking on his salary of 5.8 for 2 years, and he was older. I would say it's about close to what he gave up because the Rangers gave up a second-round pick to move him. So it's a roundabout the ballpark. I say this goes through.
Yeah. Anthony, go through, or somebody says no to this?
Yeah, no, I think it goes through, and honestly, I'll go further. I think I think that the team name, like San Jose, I think you could change that to a couple other teams who have a lot of cap space. I think the point of it is that I think the Islanders are going to use one of the second-round picks they acquired from Chicago to try to trade Pajot by the draft because
Yeah.
right now, after McLean's paltry $775K, I think they have like around close to $6 million in cap space. So if the Islanders are to try to do anything of significance in the offseason, they're going to have to move a contract. And Pajot is the one that keeps popping up in all the trade rumors. So I would say that, the Islanders try to trade Pajot in the next, week and a half to give them a little bit more cap space come July 1st. But, I think when he does get traded, I think you're going to see a similar deal to this. They're going to 2024 second along with Pajot to Team X, and maybe they get back a late round pick of some kind. So
does Casey Cizica's flexibility to play third line center, although not great offensive numbers, does that give them the ability to make this deal?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question too, because I think now with McLean here for 3 years, you have Cizikas and you have Pajot. Now, granted, out of the three, Pajot is the most gifted offensively, but you have three centers who, let's face it, kind of play that same style of defensive pests. So it's a redundancy. Not all of them are needed. So I think if they do trade Pajot, Phil, you bring up a good point. I mean, they have an option. Do you make Cizikas the third line center and elevate him a little bit, and hopes that maybe with a little bit more role he could at least come close to when he replicated his 20-goal year a few years ago, possibly, or you could just move, as Cizikas is getting older, you could move him to the wing on a new fourth line that features McLean, Cizikas, and Fashing or somebody else, and then sign a third line center that's a little more offensively skilled. So a couple of different options, but I don't think you need all three of them on the roster anymore. I don't see why you would do it.
Well, you could definitely move them, and then whoever, one of the teams that have cap spaces, where the bottom feeders like San Jose, he plays well, gets a lot of minutes, and then he ends up getting moved out at the trade deadline. You could always parlay that. But guys, thank you very much. This was the Who Says No from Big Apple Hockey, and we're still got a lot more NHL news that we're going to be talking about. So let's go to Bar Talk.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. And welcome back, everybody, to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, where we're gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. Are you so confident that you're buying everybody around, so I'll have a beer, or, oh, dear God, I'll have a shot. Play along down in the comments below, everybody, and also, remember the shirts are available as well as the trucker hats. Guys, the New York Rangers have Gabriel Perreault and Brennan Ottman in the system, as well as several other players they could possibly bring up there. Phil, I'm going to ask you right now, can the Rangers solve their right wing number one with an in-house player?
Shot layup, Marc.
Oh, okay.
Shot layup. I mean, if this is alluding to Capo Caco, I've said this recently on social media to people. I have a very hard time seeing this team going for it again and running back Capo Caco at right wing one. Like, I think that if they're going to do that, then I don't think they're as serious about trying to win it all as they would need to be. I don't. And I see comments about Buchnevich. What has Buchnevich done in the playoffs? He's another player that doesn't play the type of hockey that they need in order to win. Sorry, I know you guys like him, and I know you guys liked him with Zibanejad and Kreider, but it's just not the case. He doesn't check the boxes. Perreault is not coming up next season, barring a surprise and a late entry. He would have to dominate so badly at the NCAA level that to kind of bypass the AHL like Kreider did in order to to do it, and I don't think he's doing that. I think he's too small. I mean, a lot can change in a year, obviously, but I don't see it. I don't. I think they're going to go out and get something, and I wouldn't be surprised if Capo Caca was moved now, because they're clearly moving space to do something, and I don't think it's just re-signing their own guys and running the same damn thing back. I mean, Drury said that he was open to moving core players, and nothing was off the board. I think we're seeing the manifestation of that. So, I really have a hard time seeing them trying to address right wing one or a top six right wing in house. So if that by any chance alludes to breaking up Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere, I don't see that happening. I don't, even though Lafreniere deserves to be their number one right wing at this point. I think they keep that line together because it's the one line that has actually produced that 5-on-5.
Anthony, what do you think? Can the Rangers find their answer in-house?
No. And Phil, I want to point out that I had a different bar talk topic in here for the Rangers, and Marc seemingly changed it for some reason.
Oh, no, I didn't have it on there. What was yours?
That was such a layup.
Anthony, I will abandon this right now. What was yours?
You deleted it. I saw you deleting it live time when we were both in the notes. I had in there the New York Rangers are going to use the cap space made from losing Barclay Goodrow to target Jake Gensel in free agency. And I literally saw Marc delete it and enter the.
You know what? I thought I was doing last week's. Okay, sure. Let's do this one.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is a shot.
All right, so the Rangers will target Jake Gensel. Go ahead, Anthony.
It's all by design.
Well, then, I mean, yeah. If you go with that original one, I'm gonna say round, because I think whether it's Gensel, Marchessault, or someone else, I think the Rangers recognize that they need a legitimate top line right winger. So I think for sure Drury's going to go out and try to get someone that will properly fill in on that line, because like your point, you're the one that you pose, Marc. Clearly, the Rangers don't have.
There it is. Yeah, I saw him mess it up and then put it back in.
I was just getting it in there. Yeah,
the Rangers don't have an in-house option that can adequately fill that role. So that's why it was like Phil said and others, it was a shot layup.
Yeah.
You know, this, yeah, I mean, if you want to say, you know, Beer, because it could be not necessarily Gensel, but someone else, that's a fair argument. But I think that's more along the lines what Chris Drury is going to try to do here.
Okay, so Beer on Jake Gensel. How about you, Phil? What do you got?
Beer on Jake Gensel, and I will answer this question, or I'll bring this question up. Where did you hear that Gensel doesn't want to come to the Rangers? It was more so that Pittsburgh, I think, drove up the price on the Rangers as a rival tax and then dealt them to Carolina, who they've had history dealing with. So yeah, I don't know where you're getting that from. But if you got something concrete, please let us know.
Yeah, I'm going to say like this. I've been saying all along the Rangers need to get more physical and to win in the playoffs. Jake Gensel would kind of fit that mix, even though he's not exactly the biggest player. But he goes to the garbage areas. He gets good goals in the playoffs. He's a good playoff player. Yeah, I in a heartbeat. So I'd actually, if that's the case, I'll buy around on that. But you know what? I'm just gonna go to Beer because I got to see what that asking price is. Because at our first video of Anthony's free agent predictions, we got several of them. Mr. LaRocco predicted a different team that he was going to. So check that out. It's in our shorts right now. And we did mention his name only a couple minutes ago. Let's go through this real quick. But JG Pageau, 2 years remaining at $5 million. Anthony, he's going to get moved by the draft.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to go around here because if they don't, then they're going to be handcuffed to what they could do, you know, in free agency or via trades. You know, as we approach July 1st, because as I said before, after re-signing a McLean, cap friendly shows them at $5.8 million in cap space. I guess technically that's more because they still feature Julien Gauthier on the roster, which he'll be in the minors again, so that will be a little bit more than that. But the point remains that if they don't move Pageau, after they re-sign Simon Holmstrom, who won't require much money. He'll probably only come in at maybe $1.25 million, $1.5 million. They won't have much to really do something significant. So I think their plan is to move Pajot or move a contract, and he's the leading candidate. So I'm going to say round, and then if they don't, well then come July 1st, Lou might just be left holding the bag without being able to make a move that he wants. But I do think he gets. I would have said beer or shot if they didn't make that trade with Chicago to pick up the extra second. But now that they have an extra pick, I think it happens. Only a matter of time. That's my opinion.
Phil, you got them moving him by the draft, right?
I want to say round, but I can't be 110% positive. Screw it, I'll go round.
Okay.
You know what? I think that probably by draft night, if not the end of that weekend, they get something done. Obviously, that salary is too big to be a third line center. They need the cap space to move it. They have the assets to do it. Honestly, I think I'd be shocked if it's not by the end of that weekend. I think Lou is going to want to have the available cap space to kind of formulate a game plan to see who he can and who he can't go after in free agency and trades by the time July 1st comes around. I know you could still make deals before July 1st, but I think he really wants to have all of his ducks in a row by the end of that weekend and then go from there.
Anybody that loves their ducks in a row, it's Lou Lamoriello. So I'm going to go with that. It's a hat trick, and we're going to buy around for all of this because I think they got to move him. He's been a hell of a player for the Islanders, but physically he's just going to keep breaking down. You got to move him now while you can. And by the way, guys, I was looking at this before. I just want to mention this. Anybody that wants to talk about a bad contract that you can't get out of, Jacob Trouba's got a 15-team no trade clause. I forget how many Pajot has on his, but Marc-Edouard Vlasic has a 3-team no trade clause. Those are the teams that he could actually be traded to. Yikes.
Yikes.
Yes. So bigger news that happened today. The New Jersey Devils acquired Jacob Markstrom from the Flames for Kevin Dahl and
Marc.
Who is it?
BAHL.
Yeah, son of a. All right. Crap. Anyway, so they got Dahl or whatever. Markstrom, guys.
No calls in it afterwards.
Whatever.
Jeez. Yeah, get the GIF.
All right, here it is. Even though everybody, there are other people that can mess up. Got right here. Here we go, guys. Dahl. I'll even go to POW for anyway. Going back to Markstrom, though, guys. This was his numbers 2 years ago when he was a Vezina finalist. 922 save percentage, 2.22 goals against average. His last 2 seasons, sub 900 save percentage and a 285 goals against. Anthony, Jacob Markstrom is still a difference-making goalie.
You changed this one on me too, Marc.
I did change it on you too. He's also 35 years old.
I mean, based on his year,
34 and be 35 in January
in Calgary a couple of years ago, yeah, he was a difference maker. He was a Vezina, candidate. I had this, Phil, because Markstrom was going to put the Devils back in the playoffs. Difference
I
making.
think the wording is close enough. I think we're kind of nitpicking here on that.
You know what? I think the Devils have a lot of skill offensively. I think it was obvious last year that their goaltending was a huge problem. I mean, clearly Jack Hughes didn't stay healthy. That didn't help either. But I think Markstrom. I think Markstrom does lead the Devils back to the playoffs, the original one. So I would go round there. But difference making goalie, yeah.
Pretty much we're all on the same form line, right?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think screw it. I'll go round. I mean, I know he had an off year last year, but Calgary was pretty bad. I think Markstrom's really going to help the Devils. And, got to remember, Dougie Hamilton missed pretty much the whole year last year after going down in, November or whatever it was. So with him back healthy, I think that's going to make a difference too. So, I think Markstrom was a great addition for the Devils.
By the way, John Dahl directed the movie Rounders. Just want to say that one for the record. So, Phil, is Markstrom a difference-making goalie?
I don't know, Kanish. You tell me with your grinding and your side hustle. Yeah, I still think he can make a difference. So I'll say round. I mean, are we talking a Vezina caliber guy? Are we talking about he's the reason why they make the playoffs? I don't know. They still have moves they have to make. I mean, I don't see Tyler Toffoli signing with them. So that means that they could probably put up money towards a defenseman. I get that they have technically 6 NHL defensemen on the roster as is when you count Nemec and Hughes, who I think are going to get better. But you can't look at that core and say, you know what? They have great shutdown defensemen there. Is their best shutdown defenseman really Siegenthaler?
Yep.
Is that really their best shutdown guy? If that's their best shutdown guy, I think they may need to improve in that area. Marino is a decent two-way guy. Not bad for $4.4 million. You signed Curtis McDermott to combat Matt Rempe. He's got to be a 7th guy, because if you're trotting him out there as your 6th defenseman every night, that's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, not going to lie. He's not good. But, I mean, the 2 kids we talked about, Brendan Smith is gone. Nick DeSimone is really a fringe NHL player. I mean, and Dougie Hamilton, does he stay healthy? So the big thing is it's not just the goaltending, but it's the defense. That has been a question for them for quite some time. And I wonder if they finally address that. They have $16 million in cap space to work with. You've got to give Dawson Mercer a new restricted free agent deal. If they bridge him, they may be able to save money. You're going to lose Nosek and Tierney, which I don't think that's a big loss for them. But you do have to give Mercer a good portion of that $16 million, and then you got to worry about. Then you really got to worry about. I mean, Michael McLeod's not going to be on the. We're not going to see him anytime soon, but yeah, there's. I wonder if they're able to go out and get a defenseman and then go out and get another winger, because that's really what. Or are they going to rely more on Andre Palat and Dawson Mercer? I mean, is that really what they're going to run with? Okay. I mean, you've got weapons still in Meyer, Hughes, Bratt, Keisher, Palat, and Dawson. That looks like a decent top 6. But their depth kind of afterwards is kind of meh. Alexander Holtz looks like he's trending towards bust. Nolan Foot's nothing special. And then you still have to finish out your bottom 6. So I don't know if they can do all of that, but if they can go get a defenseman that can give them some good, reliable minutes, then that would definitely help them towards a playoff push.
I'm going to go beer on this one, guys. I'm not big on Jacob Markstrom, and I think he's closer to the way Forrest Gump would describe him as you never know what you're going to get. His save percentage has been going down. He just hasn't been passing the eye test. Is he an upgrade from what the Devils had recently? Sure, but he's always kind of been like a goalie that you waited for him to put it all together, and then he did, and then he regressed. Like I put on the stats before, sub 900 save percentage the last 2 years, goals against that keeps getting higher and higher. I don't know about it, guys. I don't think he's right there. But let's go to a guy who's always been stable with his organization, Steven Stamkos, who's played for the Lightning for the last 16 seasons. Steven Stamkos is going to hit free agency. And guys, I'll start this one off. I'm buying around on it. And it's I really hope that's not going to be the case. Steven Stamkos deserves to be a Lightning and retire as a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning for the rest of his career. An absolute, he arguably the greatest player in their franchise history. So I hope he doesn't hit free agency, and I hope they re-sign him, but we'll see about that one. Phil, what do you think?
They have projected just over $5 million in cap space. They have Stamkos to sign. I don't think Duclair's coming back. Same with Mott, Austin Watson, same gone. They have 6 defensemen under contract, but that defense core it's not great. I mean, you got Ryan McDonough back, which was kind of surprising that they went and did that. Eric Chernak has $5.2 million. Is this the year that they decide to move him? Because unless Stamkos takes a big discount, I wonder how they're putting that team together. Because they have right now 10 forwards under contract. That's not including Stamkos. So you would have to bring back Stamkos and 2 others. And the defense, if you're not going to make any moves, it's not great. Perbix is better than people will give credit for. I will give them that. That's fine. Darren Radish, does anybody really think that he's a legitimate NHL defenseman outside of Tampa? I don't know. So it depends on what Stamkos is looking for, what type of contract he's willing to accept. But I think at this point, yeah, I do think he's going to hit free agency, but I do think there's also a very good chance that he re-signs with them. So since that last part is not a part of the question, I'm going to say round.
All right. Anthony.
You remember before he chose to re-sign with Tampa back in the day, he came close. June 30th, the same day that the Subban trade happened.
Same hour.
Yeah, Stamkos re-signed with Tampa when it looked like he was going to reach the UFA market. I think the same thing might happen. I think it might go down to the wire. I think he's made it no secret he wants to stay in Tampa Bay. I think he wants to complete his legacy there, play for, similar Steve Yzerman, play for one team his entire career. Phil just laid out the cap situation's murky. I have Tanner Jeannot's name has been out there as a guy that could move. But you know what? I'm gonna say he re-signs with Tampa Bay in a similar fashion. I think he goes down to the wire, but maybe the day before on June 30th he re-signs again. So I'll kind of take a stab at that and just say shot. But he very well could hit free agency. That is for sure because of their cap situation. We'll have to see how it plays out.
He's a guy that he's got 81 points this season and over a point per game. He still can bring it as far as Tampa goes. I don't know if he's that successful on another team, and I do think that will factor in to his decision making. But as Steven Stamkos says, I can't sign my own contract, so it might come down to what Brisebois is going to offer him. Speaking about a guy that's entering the final year of his deal, UC Saros, and it's spelled correctly this time, guys. The Predators are, yeah, not like last week. So that was a big problem. Anthony, the Predators are going to move Saros this offseason.
Well, one team that was looking for a goaltending in the New Jersey Devils find their guy, so they're out. Some of the other names you hear are Ottawa, Toronto. LA just acquired Darcy Kemper. Are they still in the market for a goalie? I don't know. Point is that I feel like the goaltending market's kind of dwindling a little bit. UC Saros, obviously, I think he's got one more year left on his deal. They have Askarov waiting in the wings. Barry Trotz has spoke highly of Saros before, said he wouldn't just give him away. He's a big proponent of defense and goaltending. I think unless they get blown away with the offer for Saros this offseason, I think he stays. We kind of heard like the fan-driven proposals and of Marner for Saros. That sounds good in theory, but Marner away for Nashville. I don't know. I mean, Nashville's become like a second Vegas, so maybe he would. But and Nashville has really lacked a player like Marner for a long time.
I don't think they've ever had a player like Marner.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think so either. I mean, I know they've had big names like Paul Correa that have played for him, and Philip Forsberg, Peter Forsberg, but yeah, they could use Marner. But point is, there's very few teams left, as I just said, that really need a goaltender. So I'm gonna go shot. I think Saros stays.
Phil?
Wow, this is actually a really tough one. Obviously, the Jersey news makes it a little damp because the one team that was probably the most vocal about getting a goaltender went and got their goaltender. I also think it's going to cost more to get Saros than it did Markstrom. I think Saros is a better goaltender than Markstrom. He's younger. He's more reliable. It's not like leap year with him because if you look at Markstrom's numbers, he's leap year. He is literally leap year. It's every other year he scores. I remember people used to say that about Alexei Kovalov. That was the famous line with him. The Rangers fans used to say. But I do think that Saros is a tougher move. So if Nashville isn't getting the offers that they want for him, I think they're okay with keeping him and trying to go on another playoff run. I think their moves in free agency, like in the early stages, will probably be telling about what their plan is with Saros. Because I'm not sure if it's a deal that gets done by draft night or draft weekend, if it gets done. I think this is something that could probably linger into the offseason, but their early on moves will probably give you an indicator of what they're going to do and the route they're going to go. So if they start adding talent, then it looks like they might end up keeping on to him and saying, you know what, screw it, we're not getting the offers that we're getting. Let's load up and try to go on a run. So
you guys kind of know my opinion about this. I think it's incredibly hard now, the way the league is, to trade goaltenders mid-season. And I think that's gone the way of the dodo. I think if they have to do it, it has to be this offseason. And then everybody's going to point to and say the most value Saros has ever had, probably right now, is literally right now. I'm looking at teams trying to figure out where he's going to go. I mean, there's a bunch of teams that could probably use a UC Saros. Maybe they could figure it out. They think they have a goalie, maybe not. I mean, John Gibson's on that list. There's another one.
One deal that would make a lot of sense for both teams would probably be something around Saros for Natchez.
That would make a lot of sense. And then look out, because Carolina would be they would have a goalie that would give up a soft goal, and then the next thing you know, they're out of the playoffs. So I'm gonna go round on this one, guys. And again, it's your gut. UC Saros has been so good for the Nashville Predators, and the Nashville Predators have had a pretty good history as far as goaltenders go. Because before Saros, obviously Pekka Rinne, and before him, that was Dan Ellis before him, right? Do I have it right? It's
Dan Ellis, Chris Mason, guys like that.
Chris Mason, yeah. And before that, I mean, they got all they could out of Mike Dunham. But
cool.
I think Nashville's could be a pretty good team next year. I wouldn't be confident turning it over to a rookie goaltender, but you could find a veteran goalie, maybe, and I'm going to surprise everybody by throwing this name out there, Cam Talbot, to come and back him up. And, I mean, that could help matters. Because
Marc hasn't got into a rage fit yet.
No, don't worry. I got a guy that I love to talk about coming up next. But I do think, actually, coming up in two topics. I do think that Trotz wants to upgrade them talent-wise, but he might have to do that in order to trade by trading Saros. Screw it. Let's do it right now. Guys, the Washington Capitals acquired Pierre-Luc Dubois from the Kings today. PLD will finish his current contract out with the Washington Capitals because the contract moved over, right? Still with the no move clause, guys?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go last. So, Phil, I'll see to you.
It's possible, but I don't know with this guy. It may. I mean, he kind of fits the trajectory of what they want with a center. It's they want a guy that's going to be young enough to kind of move along with the next generation of the team, but it's also a player that can help them a little bit right now. I don't think they're a playoff team right now as constructed. I think they're going to have to make a lot more moves in order to get back into playoffs because I think New Jersey is going to be better. I think there are other teams that are going to make advances as well. I think Buffalo will probably be better this year. I think Ottawa will probably be better this year, depending on the moves they make. But it's whether or not he can find peace within himself, I guess, and peace within a locker room because he hasn't been able to find that in the last 3 places now. So is he going to continue to be a malcontent? I hope that Marc doesn't offend anybody with Ebola references or anything like that. I don't know. I'm going to say Beer just because it's so long. We're looking so far down the future. But, I mean, what happens after Ovechkin's gone? I don't know. Because I could see Ovechkin breaking that record and just being like, peace. That's what I set out to do. Goodbye. And, I mean, he doesn't look like he's in great shape from that picture I posted where he was playing pickleball.
It took me a minute to realize that. That's where we're going on. Because I couldn't spot him.
Yeah, he did not look good. So I think this is a funny comment right here, though. The Caps just traded for the just generations. Alexander Daig with a 7-year, $8 million contract. I don't think Daig was a malcontent, though. I think there was just a lot of personal things going on with Daig behind the scenes, and there was just a lot of pressure that he just could not live up to that was forced onto him from the Canadian and French Canadian media before he even played a game. I watched a documentary on him where it was a lot of his commentary and stuff, and he goes through a lot of the seasons, and it's a pretty interesting read. So watch. So I would give that a watch if I were you guys. But yeah, I do like the comment, but I don't know if he's necessarily Daig. I think Daig wasn't a malcontent.
I think he wishes he was Alexander Daig. Anthony, go ahead, and I think you want to take a victory lap on this one as well, right?
Yeah. But no, that doesn't really relate to this particular question. Although I will say you're wrong on that topic. But he's 25 years old, so he's certainly young enough where he can finish it out. It's just really so hard to predict that long in advance. So I really don't know what's going to happen. What I will say could go a couple different directions. Like I said, he's 25. He could actually, catch on with the Caps and, kind of really have his game mature and take off and be a permanent fixture for the Caps over the next, 7 years of that contract. Or, if he has another year like he did in LA, then, maybe he's out the door soon again. But 25 years old on his 4th team, certainly not a good look. Granted, the difference is this time he didn't want to leave LA. That was the Kings that shipped him out, where the prior cities he basically wanted out of. So that is a difference. You have to be fair to him on that, Marc.
Wait, hold on. Did he waive his no move clause?
What?
Did he waive his no move clause? Because then he wanted out.
He didn't want out. It was a matter of and see, now you're starting to bring into that other conversation.
Now I'm going to go right back to those semantics.
The Kings went up to him, and obviously
here we go.
The Kings went up. The Kings approached him and said, "Listen, obviously I don't know exactly what they say, but clearly you can kind of have an idea of it. You had a really bad year. We think we made a mistake. We want to move on from you." So what is he going to say? No, I want to stay somewhere where I'm not wanted. Of course he waived it. He was approached. They said, we want to go a different direction. He's like, yeah, and then send me somewhere. And that's what happened. But point is, I think it's too hard to predict what's going to happen in this scenario with PLD. So I'll go Beer. But, hopefully for his sake and in the Capitals' sake, he could find his game and and really heading in the right direction. So I'll just leave it at that.
There is no chance of him finishing this contract as a Washington Capital. There is absolutely no chance. He made it 1 year with the LA Kings. Basically, he wanted to go. Look, I hope I'm wrong about the guy. I don't wish bad things about anybody, but every tea leaf I could read is that he's a player that he wants to do things his way. He needs to be the star. He needs to have all the attention on him. And it's also like, then if that's the case, just get him to Montreal right now. They could have bought him out. You're talking about buying out a guy who was supposed to be a centerpiece of your team. You sign him to an 8-year deal. Like,
you do realize that's a 14-year buyout, even with it being 1/3 because of the 25 and under 1/3 rule. But that's a 14-year buyout, Mark.
But Phil, it was an actual consideration. It was an actual consideration. And after 1 year, they had to get rid of him.
I highly doubt there was any actual consideration.
I think there was no consideration to buy him out. There's no way they were going to buy him out, have him on for 14 years. It just wasn't happening.
Well, you know what? I'm going to say, I hope it eventually works out. I hope he becomes a team player. I hope maybe he's not thinking about his next contract or whatever. But this guy, throughout his entire career, even going back to before the NHL, like every team he's left got better. Like somebody, please tell me you want him on his team.
I'm just gonna play devil's advocate here because I think again you have to have some fairness to him. Like, I mean, granted, if it was me, it'd be different. I'd play anywhere until I was able to leave on my own. But his first stop was Winnipeg. I mean, who wants to live in Winnipeg? I mean, quite honestly, it's a cold city. It's not much going on. I don't blame him for wanting out of Winnipeg. He goes to Columbus. Again, Columbus is basically the North American version.
Anthony reversed that. He went to Columbus first. He was drafted by Columbus.
Sorry, you're right. Okay. But the point I'm making is that Columbus has been a city where guys wanted to leave too. It's not exactly the most fun, exhilarating.
There was even an Athletic article about it, how like a lot of players said that they did not like playing in that city.
Yeah. So you're talking two cities that I would say, guys, it's probably fair to say, if you look at teams, players, top no trade places, I would bet you dollars to donuts that Winnipeg and Columbus appear in the majority of them, if not all of them. So again, I get it. Maybe that's why he didn't want to be in those cities. So again, you have to have some fairness to him in that regard. But he went to a place where he chose voluntarily, LA, and he signed there. He committed. But again, he didn't want out of LA. LA wanted him gone. So it's a little different.
If he said no in that no move clause, Rob Blake probably gets fired. Because that is an albatross that was hanging over them. It's a hot take, but that's my move on that one. Because that's a boo-boo. That's a boo-boo. Really bad on Rob Blake. And now they got Darcy Kemper. They got younger in net because of that. I'm sorry. I look at that contract. You gave up on this guy 1 year into a deal. Like the Rangers, Theo Fleury, let's just say he had some issues. The Rangers didn't give up on him, and he had hit the worst professional season of his career.
Even a salary cap era type contract, Mark.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying he had the worst season of his career in his first year with the Rangers, and then we know about the rest of it, and he still came back. Dubois went to LA and was the worst season of his career, and there's even a coaching change mid-season, and they couldn't wait to get him out of there. Like, I mean, am I reading something else that's in here? That
it's definitely something up behind the scenes with this guy. I don't know what it is, but I mean, it's rough because, like I said, I do agree with Anthony in the fact that he did not want to be in the two previous stops, but I think something they saw something within him, and I don't think he's necessarily unhappy with them. I think they were very unhappy with what they saw. That whether it's a character flaw, whether it's something that went on behind the scenes, whether it's something that he said to somebody, I don't know, or the way he interacts with his teammates and staff. But there's something that's gone on behind the scenes that has caused 3 teams in how many years now to move on from this guy.
I believe it's just 3 teams in 4 years. Because we'll go to the guy he got traded for in a second. But this is, and originally I was going to put this one last, guys. Because, look, there's a lot of players. You can have all the talent in the world. You're a bad teammate. They want to get you out of there as soon as possible. Because let's go to the guy that he was traded for. Because Don Waddell had this comment about contracts right now with the Columbus Blue Jackets. We have some contracts that are probably not team friendly that we have to figure out. So, Anthony, Patrick Laine will be a good buy low option for teams this summer.
Yeah, I mean, when you consider his pedigree and his skill, I think, Don Waddell trading him now, his value is probably the lowest that it's been, being that he's been hurt a lot lately. And then on top of that, he was obviously in the NHLPA player assistance program. And then on top of that, he's had the reputation for being lazy. So for me, I would stay away personally, because I think when you combine all that with his contract, however, if you can get him for cheap and he turns it around, I think you eventually, yes, you get a really, really talented player with an elite shot, elite release, and he can do wonders for you. But I personally wouldn't take that chance if I was a general manager. However, if you did, it can work out if you're giving up, peanuts for him. So I'll go beer there.
Phil?
I'm going to say round. The reason why is because I look at Tony DeAngelo, I look at Ivan Provorov, I look at Corey Perry, I look at players that have been big PR nightmares, and teams still took chances on him.
Mm-hmm.
Laine, although he's got a much bigger contract, is younger, and he's better than all those players. So someone is absolutely going to take a chance on Laine. All it takes is one team to just go in and value this guy enough to the point where they'll kick the tires, they'll see what the asking price is, and if it's within their ballpark, they'll work out a deal. So I do think that's possible. I don't know who it's going to be per se, but I do think that some team is going to buy low on him this summer, and he's out of Columbus. I just wonder how low the price tag is going to be with all the stuff that's happened with him, between the injuries, between entering the player assistance program, between his reputation for playing Fortnite and all this other stuff and being lazy and everything you want to talk about regarding him. But I don't know. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know how much it's going to be, but I do think there is a team that's going to take a chance on him. Oh, and salary is another thing. That could be a big talking point in deal, because if Columbus is willing to retain, because it's not a very long deal, it's not a lot of years left on that deal. If Columbus is willing to retain a chunk of it, let's just say 25 to 50%, somewhere in that range, that makes a deal a little more fathomable for the other team, and it probably boosts the return a little bit for Columbus.
I'm going to go in a different direction. I don't think he's a buy low player. I know a lot of people are saying buy low, and I'm going to go shot on this, guys, because they're all going to go, well, you know what? You get him at a lower sticking price, as you were saying before, guys, about them retaining $8.7 million the next 2 years. That's all good. Let me go back to this. His last season, 18 games, 9 points. The previous season, 55 games, 52 points, and 22 goals out of that. And the season before that, 56 points, 26 goals. I think the guy can still produce. It's just he's got to be in a situation that's going to be more attractive to him, I think. And if their asking price is 60 cents on the dollar, I think you have to keep Line, roll the dice, and see whether or not you can get him to play his way back up to being an elite player, and then you can move him because he doesn't have, I believe he doesn't have no trade protection. He's got a modified no trade clause. He gets to submit a 10 team no trade list. Look, if he plays a full season, I think he could put up numbers, and I don't think he's a buy low guy at all. I think he's a guy you could trade and get things for. But as you guys just outlined, we went through PLD for his reputation and everything and all the tea leaves. Line's got his issues too, and you're like, oh my goodness. If those two players can play up to their talent level, like imagine the players they could be. We've seen Line do that. So, all right, that's it on our Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, guys, where we gauge our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. And we know the show ran long today because we had a lot of stuff we had to cover, and we also got the draft next week. Anthony, let's take some comments and some questions and any news and notes that you have or that you want to talk about, or even is there any announcements you want to make?
Well, I mean, the announcements? I wasn't there to start the show. Did you inform everybody that we're
going to the draft. We're going to the draft next week. Yes.
Yeah. I have credentials to be in the sphere with the media
on the floor. Yeah.
Marc unfortunately didn't.
No. Well, I'm going to be at the sphere as well. I'm going to be in the stands.
That's what I'm saying. You will be there.
Yeah. I'll be there. I'll be there
in the building.
Yeah.
So Big Apple Hockey will be represented through both NHL media and just by being out there interacting with people. So certainly looking forward to that. We'll be tongue-tied. We'll be departing Thursday, the 27th, getting in late, and we'll be at both days draft round 1 and then the round 2 on Saturday before coming home on Sunday the 30th. So we'll back here for you guys in time for our free agency special on July 1st. So that's that. The other news is that I have been brought on with another reputable NHL media outlet. Not going to say until I officially get onboarded, but that is a big move for myself and for Big Apple Hockey, as I'm sure that helped me get approved for the credential. But certainly excited about that, and like I said, guys, keep your eyes and ears out for that. That news will come hopefully in the next couple of days. But looking forward to that opportunity. I'm looking forward to obviously covering the draft. It'll be my second draft that I've been credentialed for. Last one was 2018 in Dallas under an old affiliation that me and Philk were a part of. Guys, appreciate all the comments here. I can't thank you guys enough. I mean, you guys listen to me on a weekly basis and have helped me really get to where I am and so to speak. So still staying on with the fourth period too for now. So that's certainly also going to be a good thing. Me and Marc look forward to hanging out with Pagnotta and Bernstein the draft weekend. But a lot of good things. Combine that with the draft itself and free agency on July 1st. A lot of stuff to talk about. Hopefully it's an active off season and we can provide you with guests and the best coverage around. But Marc, I'm certainly really fired up and really excited to go there with you. I wish you were going to have that lanyard alongside me, but we'll make do best with what the situation and kind of play it by ear. But certainly excited for what's to come.
I'm excited. Well, I mean, this is a huge year for me in general. Obviously, I'm excited for a lot of things that are coming at the end of the year. And number one, I was fitting myself for my tux for my wedding. That's going to be in November. But this is a big event for Big Apple Hockey that we're going to be well represented there, and that we're going to have. We're going to be covering everything all over the place, and I'm gonna just go with. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna be covering the fan experience, getting fan input, doing a mark on the road for that. Anthony, you're going to be able to give me some more information, text us back and forth on that. We'll have Phil hopefully still doing the stream. We're going to have the draft covered in ways we've never covered the draft. And it's stuff that we are going to be doing here, and I can't wait for everything that's been all the work that we've been putting into it, all of us, Phil, myself especially, because and Anthony obviously, it's there, and all the guys that helped us out also over the last month. Great having the post game shows with Rangers Central and Ice Cold Takes, and it's everybody has done great for us getting up. I guess Phil is off the channel for right now. Not off the channel, I meant just off the broadcast. But the sphere is going to be something. Dolan will definitely have his eye in the sky, and I've got footage of the sphere that's in there. But there is going to be a lot that we're going to be covering. No, I don't think I could streak with BAH written on my chest, David. That would be a little. I don't have the confidence to streak. So but that's great. I have somebody rooting me in the corner to tell me I just need to be sexy for one person. That's all I need to be. But guys, we're gonna have a lot of things in there. All Things Islanders is going to be partnered with us on this, so we're going to have even more coverage. Islanders, Rangers, NHL. This is the start of a lot of bigger things for us. Hopefully, even grander things. So let's keep it going. And Anthony, do you have a few more minutes? We'll answer some questions.
Yeah. Certainly have a couple more minutes here. I think I want to kind of point this out. The action that you saw today, I think it just leads credence to the fact that I mentioned this before. The end of the Stanley Cup playoffs there's not much turnaround between when the cup's going to be awarded and then the draft and then free agency a couple of days later. I think these teams that did these moves today is a message to kind of Gary Bettman that, listen, like it's so tightly condensed. And I'm sure in a perfect world, Bettman would like all these moves to kind of wait until the offseason officially began when the cup was awarded. But these teams, you can't. Their backs up against the wall. Free agency, Mark, is what? The draft is 10 days away, right? So 2 weeks away to free agency. Like, teams need to start their planning and making moves now. And I think what you're seeing today was a message sending again that, the offseason really should be in full force right now. That the perfect world, the Stanley Cup Finals should have ended, 2 weeks ago, and teams have more preparations for their meetings and their pro scout meetings and kind of formulate a game plan for the offseason. And I think let's repeat myself, what you saw today is there was these teams that didn't want to wait. They're saying, listen, we're up against the wall here. Drafts in 10 days. We need to sort of stuff out. So for everyone listening, like don't be surprised if you see more moves like this in the next couple of days before the finals, are still going on. So I expect more to come. There was the report from Travis Yost, a little bit of an insider, that the Flyers and the Senators are working on a deal, a framework in place. He said that one might not happen a little bit closer to the draft, but I think there are a lot more balls in the air here that you're going to see kind of come to fruition pretty shortly. So I expect the Islanders to make a move soon. Again, we talked about Pajot, if he's going to be moved by the draft. I certainly think that could be on the horizon. Get the buyout window. The buyout window opens 48 hours after the finals ends. So, when's Game 6? Game 6 is Thursday.
Game
Friday.
6 is Friday night, and Game
Friday,
7 will be Monday.
Yeah, technically speaking, the buyout window could be open on Sunday. So things are moving fast, and teams are hearing. Not hearing. Teams are putting their off-season plans in full motion here. So should be exciting the next 14 days.
I think, by the way, I think this is where having 2 days for travel time, even though this is one of the Stanley Cup Finals that really needs the 2 days for travel time, but this is also where it hurts. No, 1 day for travel time. The not the Rangers. The NHL could have saved themselves another week right now. All they had to do was just take away that extra day.
This is the longest distance between two teams in the finals. You can't have them play every other day when they're traveling from Edmonton to Florida. It's just too.
I actually think you're right about that, Anthony. And by the way, this is the longest distance, I believe, in championship sports.
Yeah.
To
answer this question, you guys all know Lou Lamoriello is a vault. He doesn't let anything out. I mean, hell, it took him how many hours? The Islanders announced the Kyle McLean signing earlier today. It only came out an hour ago. So Lou doesn't let much out. I get a lot of my information Islander related through other channels. Nothing I get comes directly from Lou. A couple of weeks ago, I had a tweet on X that caused a lot of stir about. I had said I'd reached out to a trusted source regarding Jacob Trouba, and that the answer was he wasn't going anywhere. That's another source I have. Again, I never kind of reveal sources, but I certainly trust it. So, the source is a wide range. I'm not going to pretend like I'm, Elliot Friedman, fellas, because I'm nowhere, I'm nowhere near it. Trying to kind of, work up a following here, but I do have some people that I trust that know me enough to kind of divulge some information to me. But no, nothing directly from the Islanders. That will never happen with Lou Lamoriello in charge.
Oh, no, and especially Lou will never let that happen, and we know that. Musics, I would love to give you a better answer on that. We're trying to plan to do a mock draft. Hopefully, we could get that done with Stat Boy Steven this weekend. I'm actually starting to do my homework on all the prospects right now. John Radigan is asking, who would you guys like to see fill the Columbus coaching void? Anthony, it can't be a brand new head coach. This has got to be a head coach that'll come in and instill a culture. And I'm trying to think of who to say that it's going to be.
So, I mean, you're not going to like this name, but Gerard Gallant, he's certainly out there. From what I understand, he's in the mix. Has former ties to Columbus. The Don Waddell factor from Atlanta. I heard Bob Hartley's name. Jay Woodcroft is still out there. So yeah, I think it can go in a couple of different directions. But I would suspect that the Blue Jackets want to have a coach in place by the draft. So sometime in the next 10 days.
Yeah. And look, we talked a while back about the Blue Jackets having a culture problem. And I actually did kind of put it on Yarmo and JD. And I said it with this. You need a coach that this guy is going to be a coach next year. Now, if ideally it would have been Mike Babcock from 12 years ago instead, Mike Babcock, I just shake my head at that story, that entire story. But that's what happened with Toronto, and that's what they said was going on. So, I
kind of feel for Pascal Vincent because, I mean, I didn't think he did a bad job.
Yeah, but one of his moves was healthy scratching Johnny Gaudreau. Who's that going to help?
That takes stones to do that. You scratch a guy making $9.5 million, a star player. I mean, I'm all for that. Too many coaches are afraid to hold star players accountable, and it's always the same, third, fourth line of players, or guys just have a reputation for being lazy that kind of get, scratched and held accountable. He wasn't afraid to hold anybody accountable, and I think that's a great attribute of a strong coach. But needless to say, though, I don't think he did anything wrong. Just Don Waddell wanted his own guy. So
well, as
he
we've
felt
known with Columbus, Anthony, only one coach has had any success there, and he's in Philadelphia right now. So, and people can all say, "Oh, well, they kind of ran him out of town." Yeah, well, that's what happens when you have a good coach. They have a shelf life. I don't know particularly who I'd like to see in Columbus. I just want to see somebody that can start in saying, "This is what Columbus Blue Jackets hockey is. This is who we are. This is everything we're going to be." Because
I think Jay Woodcroft. I think Jay Woodcroft would be a good option for him. I honestly, I didn't think he was a bad coach in Edmonton. I think he deserves another shot. He's probably, for my money, he's probably the best coach, on the open market. Obviously, you're not going to count guys like Quenneville because he's not reinstated, and then you have Babcock, who I'm not even going to go there. He has a whole host of issues aside from already being the Blue Jackets coach. I like Woodcroft a lot, but so we'll see what happens there. But I have a more important question for our viewers, because I think they'll really like it. And you got to listen to the masses, Mark. So when we're in Vegas, Friday morning, who wants to see Mark do a live show with me, of course, from the pool at the Encore where we're staying? Mark could set up the camera. We could sit on our lounge chairs and we could do a show. Of course, he'll be shirtless, and Mark Williams can provide you with a Big Apple Hockey special live telecast from the pool at the Encore. And of course, I'll feed him drinks too. So if you guys want to see that, let it in the comments, and I'll convince Mark while we're on the plane. Listen, they spoke. They want to see you do a show with no shirt on at the pool pregame. And I think everybody would love to see that, Mark.
I do know one person that wants to see me with no shirt on, but I think that's about the rest of it. Maybe, Anthony, there's going to be a lot of things we're going to have to be covering at the draft. What it would be from both what your perspective is going to be, what the fans would see with that. I'm going to show with that. Oh God, could we get Lou poolside? I don't know what the camera can handle. I could get a good tan probably in the next week. Yeah. Yeah, no. Although it is funny because whenever I talk about my time, whenever I'm shirtless or anything, or outdoors, I should say. It's always golf. It's always something else. So there's going to be a good burn on tomorrow, but maybe I'll try to work on getting a base tan Sunday when I'm going to be riding. Me and my fiance, we just got bikes. We're going to be doing the trail down to Jones Beach. So that should be fun. But we're going to have a lot of coverage with that, and let's see what we could do. We're definitely going to be having you as the intro for the Mark on the Road, Anthony, and the Sphere. Geez, the Sphere. That's if the NHL is going to be decentralized, you can see why they're going to have to be decentralized after this draft, Anthony, because hell, for us, we're going to be covering the draft Friday, Saturday. We get Sunday to fly home, and then Monday morning, we're right back at it for free agent frenzy. So there's a lot that we're going to have to be doing.
It's going to be certainly a busy time period, but I'm all for giving the people what they want and do a quick little show from the Encore pool and entertain and like I said, have Mark Williams with aviators on and shirtless, and I think people will eat it up.
We might have to do a video and not a stream for it and get it out to everybody. I'm not sure. I have to look up how I can. I gotta get. Is Ken Jeong gonna join us in Vegas? Hopefully not, because it didn't work out well for for Bradley Cooper and Ed Helms and Zach Galifianakis. But there's a ton that we're going to be doing. And of course, everybody like, share, and subscribe, because then maybe I'll call Lou. But it's funny, by the way, John, you said it before, brunch apple hockey. We're going to be talking to the boys from the Sunday brunch. Can't wait for that. Hopefully seeing all the other guys on there. Chris T, by the way, saying Bouchard has the most assists by a D-man in the playoffs in NHL history. That's amazing when you consider the company that he's in. You're talking about Paul Coffey, Brian Leach, Kel McCarr. Yeah, there's a lot of that. If you go on the pool, don't forget your floaties, maybe. All right, beer shot round may have a different connotation on the pool deck, fellas. Yeah, that's true. Maybe a couple mojitos. I'm big on mojitos when it comes to like moments like that. Where we go last night? We went to Salt in Merrick. Nice little place that's on the water. Salt on the Water is actually what it's called. Had a couple good drinks. PLD will be there with a knife to get my floaties. That's what he'll do with that. All right. And again, guys, we're trying to get a mock draft going too. We're working on that as well. Getting that done, obviously, with a friend of the channel, Statboy Steven, that would probably be on with us. Last year, when Philk and Steven did their mock draft, I had to get out of the way because those two know so much more about prospects. That's their expertise, guys. Mine is always reviewing things afterwards, not the prospects. I gotta do my homework on that because the New York Rangers, they have a pick in the first round still. It'd be funny if Chris Drury ends up trading out of the first round. Kind of, wouldn't that be hilarious? But the word is that they're trying to get as many assets as they can right now, as well as they're clearing up space. So again, everybody keep looking for our draft coverage that's going to be coming next week. My expertise is spelling and pronunciation. Yeah. My pretty face will my pretty face runs that place. Well, maybe, hopefully. Yeah, Mikey, for us, I got shirts available. Check the link below. It's to our eBay store. I got hats and I have shirts. I think I have all the sizes listed. So I do send them out. Working on hockey jerseys. Been working on them for a while. Different ones. I had ones that I had to send out to Pete, who is a Puck Yeah, that's on here. A friend of mine for a long time. Controller Anthony didn't leave, but you know what? We are up to 2 hours and 8 minutes right now, and I'm going to be going soon. So, guys, I'm going to start. I think, you know what? Here's what I'm going to say. I think the Hawks take the defenseman. You got to start building that blue line up a little bit more because, God, the defenseman. I gotta remember his name now. The Russian defenseman. There's a lot of Canadians that some guys are predicting are actually going to go in the first round, and we've had a big swing where U.S. players were going in the first round a lot the last few years. Not going to be the case. We'll have at least, again, some more forms of that because we got a lot of things. So at 2, I got to look up the kid's name. It's escaping me right now. And great to see everybody that's joining us on Instagram as well. As there's a lot that goes into these streams, guys. There's not just click, and we're on. It's a little bit more than that. I gotta get this. Oh boy. Artyom Levshonov. I think that's the guy I think they're going to go with next. A lot of people are predicting that that's where he's going to go. I obviously probably did not pronounce his name correctly, but there's going to be a lot of those guys that you're going to see moved out at that time. I'm looking to see. I'm curious where Cole Eiserman's going to be. He was a guy that I was following for a little bit, but then not I kind of lost track of him because just other things took priority. I mean, again with Son, if he can end up in Calgary, that would be the dream. That would be the story of the NHL draft, and I think everybody would be happy about that one. Not Saliev. No. The other guy. So, we should have a raffle to drive Trouba to the airport. Jacob Trouba, I still think has played his last game as a New York Ranger. Look, all the criticisms of him, the two key plays I can't help but go back to in the Rangers Panthers series. Say what you will, however, the Rangers were outplayed in the series. They still had Igor, and Igor kind of kept it all in place. But that penalty kill in Game 4 was one of the worst maneuvers I've ever seen a player ever make. And that was Jacob Trouba going all the way out to the boards, leaving a 57 goal scorer all alone. Goodbye. You're not a good defenseman. And then in Game 6, he goes for the hip check and on Evan Rodriguez, blows right by him, sets up the first goal. You can't have that. So look, that's just my opinion on it. Matt saying I like Berkeley Cotton from videos I've watched. Caden Lidstrom, that's probably Lidstrom, looks pretty good too. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm doing all my research probably right now. One of the mock drafts I'm looking at right now, it's got Caden Lidstrom going to the Canadians. So, because you know what, you could say all you will about a player. A player is only as good as the team and the system and the support that you could have around him. So Fox was also injured, so I'll get that. But the Game 6 missed check that from Chris T is all he needed to see. That was the last straw. And I get what you're saying with that. And look, Ranger fans have every right to be mad about this guy. And the word is about him being having an injury with his ankle. Please, if you're injured in your ankle and you're limited in your movement, you should be less aggressive and not more. So I don't want to hear about the ankle injury being a problem. But you know what? I would take Leah Sanderson back if that would be the case. So just. Yeah. We got word Islanders are potentially looking to move Anders Lee, most likely JG Pajot. It'll be sad. It'll be sad what's when Anders Lee is eventually moved. So he's had a hell of a career as a New York Islander. Again, by the way, I understand what you're saying with this, Mikey. But also, that's why you need the player to complement his game. And the question I have is Fox really being complimented by Lindgren enough? I love Ryan Lindgren as a player. Contract negotiations are up. Can the Rangers afford to sign him to a 5-year, $5 million deal? I don't know if that's the answer. So. Enstrom and Rampy could play 4C. I don't know about that. Enstrom maybe not Rampy. I've not been impressed with Rampy's skating, guys. I know everybody's saying he was drafted as a center. So what? But we'll see about that. Anders Lee, a 40 goal scorer. Again, just a hell of a player on him. And again, Johnny Brodzinski, if he's the answer, what the hell is the question? Nikita Zadorov. I think that would be a good option for the New York Rangers. Here's the thing. The New York Rangers right now, their blue line could look vastly different next year. And they need to remember what the Florida Panthers did to them. They cycled on them down low. They couldn't get the puck out of their own end. They couldn't make a good outlet pass half the time. My question is Keandre Miller still going to be here next year? I'm gut saying yes, but I'm still going to ask that question. So, all right, let's take a couple more comments, guys. And as Matt's saying right there, can't give him 5 for 5. And you certainly can't give him 5 years with a no-move clause. Absolutely not. You get bigger on the blue line. Well, it's funny enough because the Florida Panthers had a player that the Rangers liked on their blue line in Mikkola, but the Rangers couldn't afford him. You know why? Because they were in cap hell. You had to get a lot of buy low candidates. Get bigger on the blue line. Again, because again, Mikey's right about this. Gotta win the puck on the boards. Well, 3, I'm assuming you're going with 3 years at $4 million for Lindgren. JE, that sounds great for every Ranger fan. The question is, does that sound good for Ryan Lindgren? Does he go? I think 6 for 4 is way too high. Way too high. He's still got RFA status. That's what's going to help the negotiations. So, there's a comment from Mike NWR for Life. Rampy said he's working on his skating this offseason and the rest of his game. I really hope hearing his name echo through MSG has him come to camp in beast mode. Sure, but you can't do that for 82 games. So that's where it is. Zadorov is better than Mikkola. Yes, he is, but Mikkola still was a huge contributor. And guys, we're going to get the music playing right now. Looking at dinner soon. I think it's going to be, don't know what it's going to be yet. Had a lobster roll today. That was pretty good. I did that out in Garden City. Let's get some more of your comments right here. And that's where I've often talked about that the Ryan Lindgren deal is going to be huge. Because the Rangers cannot, I understand you're talking about a guy that's 26 years old, but he's undersized, he's blocked a lot of shots, and his body has already been through a lot. I don't know if the Rangers can fully invest in that. And Rubrek could be a really good player. We'll see about that soon enough. But also keep in mind, there's a reason why it's hard to find good, tall centers. They don't grow on trees for a reason. And hopefully Dylan Rubrek, who had a pretty good year in the OHL, ends up doing that. Give it 10 years, it'll be poisoned with hamburger helper. All right, guys. Hey, look, everybody, you were great today. Everybody was great. It was an awesome show to have. Like I said, we have a lot more stuff that's going to be coming to us coming to you this week, where we're going to be having hopefully a mock draft. Last year, it was Statboy Steven and Phil that did a great job. Hopefully we got that one coming. We have the draft coverage. We'll have pre-draft coverage. And obviously, there's going to be a show next week. The Stanley Cup still has to be handed out. So make sure, guys, that there's going to be any trades tomorrow happening. I'm going to go with yes. I think you're going to see a couple more trades because they don't want to announce any trades the day of the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm amazed trades are happening right now. But yes, I think trades are going to happen tomorrow. So look for trades to happen. And if there's a big trade that happens, we'll be right here to cover it. Although tomorrow I will be on Bethpage Black. It might be Anthony. Oh, no, sorry. I'll be Bethpage Red tomorrow. Black was actually a couple weeks ago. But Linger gets banged up too much. He'll get hurt. Shannon, thank you. Can't wait to cover more with you guys. But we'll see. Can the Florida Panthers finish off the Oilers, or we got a game Monday night? If they force Game 7, wow. It doesn't happen. And I constantly tell everybody, the Panthers have 4 cracks at winning one game. McDavid right now is just absolutely willing them. And by the way, Willie Mays, greatest living baseball player ever. I mean, he's definitely up there with greatest baseball players ever. A lot of people would probably say that about him, the Say Kid. And Shannon, that would be great if you could go to Game 7. But there is so much going. Oh wait, hold on. We got a couple of these. Chris T was saying before Jacob Chikrin could be moved to the draft. Well, if the sun rises in the day, Jacob Chikrin's in a trade rumor. And Evan came up and said, at least it backs up that the Rangers have more work to do in seeing how beatable Bob is. But Bob can do that to himself, so that's what I have to say about that one. Bob sometimes looks great, sometimes he doesn't. His worst game was Game 3 against the Rangers. John Rodigan also said, not only that, how many more swings at the cup does Bob have? I think this is the last, maybe one more with Sergei Bobrovsky, depending what they could do with their roster construction next year. Who makes the next trade, the New York Islanders, the New York Rangers? I'm going to go with the New York Islanders. I think that's where you're going to see one of the big contracts get moved, whether it is going to be Anders Lee or JG Pageau. I think it's going to be Pageau. I think Pageau goes. It's going to be a team that's got some cap space and to get him on there. And I think then they end up probably trying to flip him next year, get him to a team that is a playoff team. But also Matt was saying Vegas continues to have ongoing discussions with Jonathan Marchessault. Both sides would like to make this work. That was actually in one of Anthony's predictions, so everybody keep in mind on that one. And by the way, Chris T, yeah, I emphasized how bad that was with their roster management. So I do think the New York Islanders make the next trade. And guys, we will see you hopefully before next Wednesday and plenty of times over the next week. Thank you all very much. And we will talk to you soon. Let's see what one more. AHL finals are this week, Thursday and Saturday on NHL Network. And Richie, Fox isn't the softest one. There's been much softer New York Rangers. I mean, there's been a lot of softer New York Rangers. And for me, I just, Stefan Cattell is one of the most soft Rangers I knew mentally. Guys, again, thank you very much and have a great night. Oh, Kratzoff was the softest Ranger.